So, why is selling is a healing activity? And a lot of people, when they read this, say, what is that all about? And it's really when we get into the front end of this talk story session, well, hopefully you understand why the title is so appropriate. And so we always need to, all of you are probably familiar with the Wahiawa Value Add Product Development Center. We want to also do our little commercial. So we'll run this video real quickly. This any video today. And it's always a two-step process this year.
The Wahiawa Valley Product Development Center adds the educational mission of community colleges. Hawaii has celebrated success in agriculture, and we want to support local agriculture by investing and growing the Made in Hawaii, Produced in Hawaii, and Processed in Hawaii brands. Resources available on site will support local entrepreneurs in improving their products and business models, reducing the need for businesses to leave Hawaii to become viable. We offer programming curtailed around value-added businesses, equipment that are unique to Hawaii and typically too expensive for small businesses. Provide consulting and know-how to help improve products, reduce cost of production, and increase shelf life, all critical to the success of local products and are now available in Central Oahu for statewide access through the community colleges. When we look at facilities that can help support scaling products, bringing new products to market, there's very few in Hawaii. Equipment like our hyperbaric chamber that will help stabilize shelf life for products. These are things that our entrepreneurs need so that their products can get into the store, so that their products can make that trip across the ocean. Keeping businesses local, supporting local agriculture, and strengthening local entrepreneurial pipelines are core to the mission of the Wahiawa Value Added Product Development Center and the community colleges. I would love for you to learn more about what we're looking at our website and joining us for a tour so that we can continue strengthening Hawaii's local economy through agriculture.
So that's our facility. And with us is Naomi Blue Summers, from the administrator from Wahiawa Value Added Product Development Center. And I am Dag. Everyone calls me Dag. It's just Faustino Dag, but I'm Dag. I'm the business development coach over at the center. And so we get into this area of selling. And there's a couple of things that's a tug of war when we come to this area of selling. So let me go ahead and get into it. So a common impression of selling often leads towards this negative stereotype, where many people sort of say they're really manipulative, high pressure, and pushy. It's just like the little pictures I put up there. So when people say, I'm going to sell you something, or somebody's going to sell me something, this negative pops up. And two reactions occur based on this archaic stereotype. Is that customers start avoiding salespeople, they start dodging them, and they want to do eye contact, walking away. Or on the other side, the salesperson, wanting not to seem pushy, remain very quiet and sometimes seem to be actually rude. You see this a lot when you go to venues like the Made in Hawaii sets, or even local pop-ups. You see these two behaviors occurring all the time. It's all based on this unfounded type of stereotype. So, but there's been a shift. It went away for a little while during COVID. Now it's coming back. There is a shift from the sleazy, salesy stereotype to professional selling. And so there's a real re-emergence of the art of selling, and it's leading to a wealth of selling techniques. And so these are typical. If you wanted to learn selling techniques, these are some of the more popular ones: social selling, value-based selling, challenger selling. One of the most popular right now is spin selling, account-based, product-led, and consultative selling. So all of these are out there in the market. Buy a book, do a workshop. Well, what happens is all of these have something really common. And before you can actually execute any of these techniques, you sort of have to understand some basic skills to actually make these techniques work. And that's what we're covering today. We're going to cover some of the mindset that makes these work, but also two very important skills that make these work. And a lot of times, uh, people, entrepreneurs, salespeople, really don't have the mindset when they're entering selling. So let's take a look at two interesting questions. Who are customers and what are they buying? And a lot of people, have their own ideas. A customer is, and I'm selling it. So let's take a sort of a different look towards it. So who are customers? So this is a real basic definition. Customer is someone who has a problem and wants to find a valued solution. The key is valued solution in the shortest amount of time that brings them emotional wellness. And this is the part in which a lot of people, when I do the workshops and I do the consultation, so emotional wellness, what customers are really seeking is a solution to their problem, which is your product, but you're also at the same time really looking for that product to solve their problem in such a way that they have emotional wellness. They feel good about it. So they buy a solution that brings them emotional satisfaction. So we're going to take a look at the front end of this afternoon around this concept of emotional wellness. So the other one is what our customers are buying. Yeah, of course, yeah, it's going to be a solution to the problem. But the one thing they're really buying first is trust. And this is something I like all entrepreneurs and business owners and salespeople to understand that you're selling a product or a service and it solves a problem. But before your customer will even consider that, they're going to start to look to see if I can trust you. And that's their number one decision. And the first buying decision customer makes is, can they trust you? And if they trust you, then they're going to make a stronger effort to make a second decision on the product or the service. And the question is, all right, so if the first decision they make before they even consider buying a product is trusting, how I develop that. And this is one way to look at it. So buying activity is also a learning experience. So when customers come to you, whether you're in your brick and mortar store, even online, or at a pop-up, when people come to you, they have a problem in mind, and they also are looking for solutions for that problem. And in that uh, journey to find a solution, they've got this library of information. What's my situation? What product do I need? What companies do I want to buy? How about the person looking at it? So if I, and I'll make it real simple in this area, if I'm looking to find the world's best chocolate chip cookie, so I know that there's a ton of chocolate chip cookies out there. So I'm just going to look at my situation. I want the world's best chocolate chip cookie as defined by my need. I want a lot of chunky almonds in there. I want big hunks of chocolate in there. I want a thick, dough in there. And so I'm going to start to look at companies that produce different chocolate chip companies, different types of chocolate chips. And then I could come to a pop-up and someone's selling chocolate chip cookies and I see them. And now I have a criteria of whether I'm going to go ahead and even investigate buying the cookie. But the first thing I have to do is I have to make an emotional leap of faith that who I'm looking at or who I'm speaking to is somebody that my experience says I can trust. And this is something that's really interesting when we look at it. So trust is a learned experience. And one of the things that destroys trust is not understanding it's a learned experience. So let's take a longer look. What happens is that a lot of times what salespeople do is they try to rush the process. And this is really, really important. rushing the learning process. So I'm trying to get to know you a little bit. Whether you're smiling, your body language, a whole bunch of things. I'm looking at you, and I know what I want, what I'm looking for, what I need. But now I'm looking at you, and what happens if you try to rush this learning process, and it isn't a long process, but if you try to rush it, something called FUD, and I'll explain what FUD is, occurs, and FUD decreases trust. So one of the things we developed in my consulting company is a really easy acronym to remember to start to develop trust and not rush this process of this learning process. Came up with this acronym called SOUL. And we start off with S, meaning sincerely seek out the customer's problem. If you start to understand that a customer in front of you is trying to solve a problem, then you might want to ask some questions, and we'll talk about asking questions and how to do it towards the end of today's session. But you first have to seek out that you are focused on a customer and you understand that that customer may have a problem. Seek it out. The O is open yourself to the opportunity to solve the problem. What you want to do is you don't want to try to solve the problem. What you're trying to do is to open up yourself to learn more about the problem. And that's by listening, which is the L, carefully to learn to the keys. What is this customer really wanting? And the last D is develop action by educating or explaining or even exciting the customer. So by taking these four letters and really seeking out customers' problem, open yourself to the opportunity. Don't rush to solve a problem, but just listen, try to learn, and listen carefully, and then develop, either by educating, explaining how your product and how your solution will help them. So, yeah. Any questions about that process? No. All right. Good. All right. Janice, how are you doing? I guess you joined us after I started. Thank you for joining us today. But let's go back to the slides. So
Thanks
this
for having me.
okay. So what happens is that this item called FUD. Let me click the slide. This one slide. So FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Every customer that you run into or comes into your store or talks to you on the phone or deal with, they have this fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Yeah. And so it happens every time. It's just a matter of how thick. If they've been doing business with you, FUD is relatively thin. If you're doing business with them for the first time, FUD is really thick. So again, you have to recognize as a seller, you need to recognize that this exists and it's real, and every customer every time is going to have some amount of it. And one of the things we want to have you do is how do you reduce this fear, uncertainty, and doubt on behalf of the customer? And over the years of working with a lot of salespeople, I used to be the vice president of a major corporation for sales administration, and under that role, I was headed on sales training. In fact, for a lot of years, I was doing in charge of sales training for this major corporation. So over those years, we recognized FUD, and we sort of worked our way to figure out maybe this is what we can do to reduce FUD. And one of the things you want to do is acknowledge you have a problem. Straight out, sort of acknowledge, I understand you have a problem, but then quickly and gently gather information about their problem. Really be sincere about it. Seek out why they're looking for a product or service. And we're going to cover discovery probes towards the end. So ask discovery probes, and we'll talk about that. The most important thing is that let the customer finish their story completely. one thing that this turns off of customers, they start to tell you a story and you cut them off because you think you know what the answer is. That is one way to really have a customer say, "Thank you so much. I'm only coming back." So the key is show patience and willingness to help by being aware of FUD and trying to use, a very soft, very deliberate, but caring conversation with them. That reduces dramatically FUD. And it just happens that it can happen in just a minute or two, but the customer feels that they can trust you because you're on my side. So what you want them to feel is you're on my side, and not you're on the selling side, but you're on their side of the customer. So this is FUD. It exists, and this is one of the ways that you can easily reduce the thickness of FUD. And so once you've gotten past the trust area and you've reduced FUD and they start to trust you, then we're going to make a second decision, which is what is the solution to the problem they want to fix. And they're going to make that decision based on the features of the product or service, the benefits of that product, but more importantly, what's the value of the benefits? And when we talk about the value of the benefits, really saying that the benefits can solve a problem in two ways. The functional side, the functional value. If I have a leaky faucet, yeah, I can buy something that functionally will stop the leak, like a new faucet head. But the second component is the emotional value. So what happens is that I can buy a faucet head that will stop the leak, but there's something else that I will consider. And it's that emotional value. Does it look the way I want it to look? Does it feel the way I want it to? Will have it have a does it have different features I'm looking for, which I feel really good about? So this is something, again, as a seller, as an entrepreneur, a business owner, you really have to be aware that there are two needs. There's a functional need and an emotional need. The problem and solution may be functional, but the value of the solution will be emoted in emotional satisfaction. The one phrase that I usually really like to emphasize, people decide emotionally and justify it logically. So this is where, as a seller, as an entrepreneur, you have to be aware that I'm not just selling a functional product or functional service. I'm also trying to reach the customer in such a way that it functionally solves the problem, but it also emotionally solves the problem. Prime example is you're here with me, investing your lunchtime with me, and some of you may have a rush to buy a lunch because you need to come to the 12 o'clock session. And so you buy, I buy a sandwich. All right, great. So any sandwich would functionally satisfy my hunger. But here, you spend some time selecting the right sandwich because you want a very specific type of flavor or texture or look or taste, something that you are really wanting. So again, as a seller, what we're going to try and have you do is to understand that yes, I have the functional product to satisfy your functional need, but you also have to start to look at what is your what emotion you're looking for. And that is something we'll work on towards the ending part of this workshop. But recognizing that people will decide to buy emotionally, but they justify it logically. So here's the other question. What are you selling? Yeah, we're selling trust, sure. But the value solution to the problem. So the idea is in your presentations, whether it is for a chocolate chip cookie or for a jet engine, doesn't matter. What you want to do is you want to emphasize the benefits. The larger the benefits, the more value is perceived by the customer versus the price. So it's not the features, it's the benefits. So if we're talking about the faucet head, any faucet head will do. But if I was to say this particular faucet head is made of stainless steel and has 20 years life and it will not corrode. And the reason you don't want corrosion is because if it corrodes, it will contaminate your water. Now there's a benefit to buying my product. And so this is an example of how you can look at the benefits and create value statements around it. Any questions about the idea of creating value statements around what you're selling? It's always important to do that. Convert features into benefits and convert benefits into valuable benefits by giving them prime examples of why my product has a better whatever it is and the value of that. And that is one of the ways in which you start to develop a very strong relationship with your customer. Let's go back in a slide. This year, a lot of you have questions if I lose you at any time. So as you look at the stuff where benefits are really small and price is looking like big, this is just what value is represented. They're not going to buy it because the benefits are far too small in the price. But again, if you focus on the benefits, the value of those benefits, and what they will enjoy from the benefits, they will go ahead and buy the product. So, key to all of this area is compete on customer benefits and not on price. And so now it comes to the area of salesperson, which is if you're an entrepreneur, you're a salesperson automatically. So we look at the primary role of selling is to serve the customer by solving a problem. So, we sort of established that in the first couple of minutes of this workshop. And so now let's introduce you to Dr. Salesperson. And this is an area that I really want. If you're a salesperson, you're an entrepreneur, you're somebody who is going to sell products or services, this is a concept I really want you to sort of understand. So why are salespeople like doctors? Medical doctor or a salesperson, this is the people who is not feeling well. They gather information, they analyze, they diagnose the problem, develop the alternative treatment, and then they apply the cure. So that's what a doctor do. So you might say, well, okay, that's fine. I know what doctors do. Here's why salespeople are similar. Salespeople and doctors heal. Doctors heal physical ailments. Salespeople heal the emotional distress that customers are experiencing caused by the problem. So they're doing the same thing. One focuses on physical, while a salesperson is really looking at satisfying the emotional distress by providing solutions in terms of products or services to a customer who has a problem. So they're doing the same thing because once the customer is satisfied that she bought or he has bought the right product, their emotional distress disappears. And so they are now technically healed. Very similar to what doctors do. So doctors heal through various types of medication, and salespeople, entrepreneurs heal by providing the right products or services to a emotionally distressed customer looking to get that solved. So always sort of remind yourself, I'm not here to sell a product. I'm really here to help you feel much better. And the way I do that is by solving your problem, by having you understand my product. The other one that's really important is customers always, every customer want solutions fitted to the needs delivered by salespeople who are. Customers are always wanting to feel that they are special, that they are, really someone that you as a salesperson, you as an entrepreneur, you as a business owner really, really care about. So this is what they're looking for when they're working with salespeople, entrepreneurs, business owners. They want customer focused and driven help. They want to be focused on because they want their solution delivered in a very specific way. And they want somebody who will listen intently to their problem. I mean, really, just listening, just focus on the innovative in their approach to solving their problem. They don't want cookie cutter solutions if there are better solutions. And someone who has the knowledge to solve their problems. And the last one is they want to establish long-term relationships. And the reason is that every customer may need to come back to a specific salesperson, depending on what they buy. If I buy cookies, yeah, I might come to you every week to buy cookies that I eat up on my cookies. If I bought a car, I may come to you every 3 or 5 years to buy a new car. Doesn't matter. They're looking for a place to sort of work with somebody they can trust, somebody who has the solutions, and they don't want to go looking for new people. But there's a couple of challenges that is in the way of entrepreneurs and salespeople. The challenge is you have to be adept at solving problems. And the main way to do that is to listen to the customer to understand their problem. And it has to be consistent and accurate. And this is a pretty simple idea. Yeah, I can solve problems. I can listen to customers, and I can do it accurately. But there's certain things that are standing in our way. First one is, you might not be able to see that top one. Let me try and move this bar down here. Okay. Advancing technology, and technology moves at the speed of light in these days. Advancing technology is compressing the time salespeople have to solve problems, and it results in faulty diagnosis and analysis. And duplicating old solutions. I mean, this is a old cookie cutter. Well, I work with this guy, working with that lady, so I must be working with this other person. Also, using old policies, and you don't go to take the extra steps because you use the old-fashioned way of doing things. You panic and you get burned out. So technology, as that picture on the right side, is just crushing a lot of people as technology advances at a rapid pace. And due to that, the barrier that challenges entrepreneurs and salespeople, that is really a challenging issue, is that technology-driven communication through text, email, social media, AI platforms, generative AI now, has really weakened our ability to listen accurately. So let me stop right there. So where we are in our talk story session right now is that we're trying to solve customers' problems. We're also trying to solve it in such a way that we solve both functional and emotional values. And the way we're trying to do that is to really understand what the customer is telling us about their problem. For customers, the problem, whatever it is, whether I need a new chocolate chip cookie or I need a brand new car or a washing machine, it doesn't matter. What happens is that the customer is looking for a solution. And we as entrepreneurs, we as salespeople are willing to help, but we need a very particular skill to do so. And that skill is to listen to the customer in such a way we understand them. In today's society, that is a skill that has been weeded away, washed away by all the electronic conversations and electronic mediums that we use to converse today. And it's just the way society has evolved. And so what we're going to look at is that single barrier that we may have lost our ability to listen in such a way that we understand. So where I'm taking you in the next several minutes is what we call, and you put the slides up. Any questions for now before I move on to the slides? Yeah, you all good? Thanks, Kenny, for giving me the feedback. So when we do that, this is a really, really simple technique to gain what we call active listening. So you can listen your way into more sales, and you can talk your way into more sales. This is from Tom Hopkins. Somebody who I actually studied with a long time ago. Wrote the book Mastering the Art of Selling. And the truth is that you really listen your way into more sales, because in listening, it's giving you the path that you can follow that will bring this solution to the customer the way they want that solution to be delivered. So when we look at communications, listening is 55% of communications. Speaking is just 22%, and other activities are just 23%. So if your listening skills are good, then you're able to have great listening skills and be able to solve the customer's problems with the right solutions, your product, excuse me. So there's three levels of listening. First one is called marginal. This when the listener thinks, I've heard everything before, and assumes, I know what the customer is going to say. And so you saw us stop listening. The next one is called evaluative, which is the first one. Again, it's very similar. That I've heard this before. So before you can even ask the question, I have the customer complete the sentence. They offer a solution. It really gets the customer really upset. The third level of listening is called active listening. And this is when listeners take time to understand the speaker's point of view. And this is not difficult if you sort of understand the process to do so. So let's take a look at this thing called active listening. It's the most important communication skill, because hearing is physical, listening is mental, and here's a friend. Hearing is physical, and listening is mental. And so we have to listen to understand customers' needs, expectations, and emotions. And listening involves concentration. Now, this is an example. All right. So I purposely let that list go down. It was just 15.6 seconds in length. And if you are a normal human being, which I'm assuming all of you here this afternoon are, someplace around here, don't jump to conclusions, don't pay attention. Someplace in that area, your mind went someplace else. And it's just a natural reaction. You went, okay, I got this, concentrated. And then suddenly something got in your way, and you went someplace, and then you came back right at the end, because you know it's going to end, and you came back here. And so this whole middle area may have been missed. And this is where, when we talk about listening, when this occurs, we don't really get the full understanding of what was said. And so what we want to do is we want to take this typical diagram of sending a message. Sender sends a message, it's decoded, the receiver gives a feedback. The two weakest links in this is the encoding process. But the other one is there's no feedback. Without feedback, you're not really understanding if communications really took place. So what we're going to work on is we're going to work on a real simple technique, how to ensure that you are able to listen, because we all think we listen with our ears. No, we don't. We actually listen with our brains. It's in this frontal lobe area that was our listening occurs. And the problem is that when words are spoken, it hits our ears, but other things are on our mind, like what time is it? By the way, if you're trying to look at, it's now 12:37. And is there a big sale this weekend? Memorial Day is coming around. Maybe I want to buy a new iPhone or something. So you look at it, this is a big sale. Also, NBA's finals are running. So, who's winning the scores? Or what's traffic going to be like, this afternoon? Or since it's lunchtime, what am I going to buy for lunch after this workshop? And most often, this is the other one really gives us pause. What's happening in my email? So all of this is clouding our minds. And so what's coming to our ears maybe not getting to our brain so we can actually listen to it. So we will carve off a little puka in our brains, a little space in our brains. And the way we do that, how we carve over this little space in our brains so that we can actually listen to what our ears are hearing, is this technique. It's called active listening. It's really simple. So you can shift, of course, you can shift the attention to the speaker. But here's the thing, you need to be able to provide feedback to the speaker. And this is the key to this process. So by paraphrasing what the customer has told you, just basic repeating, reflective paraphrasing means you repeat it with emotion. But if a customer says, I really like your chocolate chip cookies. Oh, I'm so glad you. So if the customer says, I really like your chocolate chip cookies, go, oh, great, thank you so much. So I understand you like my chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, I do. Okay, great, fantastic. So that's communication back and forth. But if it's, so the chocolate chip conversation may be too shallow. But if there was something like, my car is making this funny sound, and that sound is really making me feel insecure that I can drive anymore. So the mechanic would say, oh, okay, that's a bad reflex. If, however, the mechanic said, so I understand that your car is making a funny kind of sound, and you're sort of worried that maybe you won't be able to get home. Is that right? And the customer said, yeah, that's right. That is what this active listening process does. It confirms that you heard what the customer told you by paraphrasing back what they said. It's a simple type of mechanism tool. And if there's some emotion to it, you might use reflective paraphrasing. So I understand that your car is making funny sounds, and yeah, it sounds to me that you're very concerned, you're emotionally not certain that you can get home. Is that right? Yes. So this is active listening. What you need to do is to listen to a customer when they're explaining a problem, and then paraphrase and just repeat. Don't say word for word, but just say, I've heard what you said. I'm just confirming in this bottom part. It's a confirmation. And when I said, I understand your car's making a lot of noise, and you're really concerned that the noise will not be able to get you home. Is that right? That that phrase, is that right, is a confirmation that you're asking the customer to say back to you, yeah, that's what I said. Oh, no, I didn't say that. So this active listening process is very, very important in this communication process of you finding what the customer wants and what their problems are. The other part of this, let me stop there. Any questions about that active listening process right now? Usually in our workshops, we just you practice a little bit, but again, I just want to introduce this stuff. Practice it at home. Just practice it at home. After a while, it becomes second nature. Sorry. Oh, sure. The other part is what we call nonverbal. So when we look at how people interpret communications, 55% is through body language and facial gestures. 38% is the sound of your voice, and 7% of what you say. So it's really important for you to understand your body language. And we'll cover that a little bit, but always try to get a positive body language when you're speaking to people. I'm going to skip this guy. I'm going to skip the next slide. So I'm going to get to this. This is the area Now that we learn how to listen, we have to be able to go ahead and ask the right questions. So there are salespeople who never hear what the customer's saying because they're too busy talking. And these are the type of salespeople that customers just avoid and detest. So these are the obnoxious. They just keep on rambling. So the question is, why do they do that? And there's a couple of reasons why they do that. The buckshot approach. If I say enough things, I might hit somebody. Or the product up. You want to know all about this product, this washing machine. So I give everything about the washing machine. Maybe one of those things will get them to buy a product. Selling features, and so this washing machine can do that, and they never say why it's important. They will want, if I talk to you a lot, you become my buddy and my friend. Five, if you stop talking, they'll go. And this is usually the case. Is if you have somebody who's talking too much, when they stop, you all walk away. And the sixth one is, I know what's best for this person, and no matter what he says, I will go ahead and tell him the right answer. All that is wrong. So what we want to do is to look at a process. This is active listening, a very simple process. I'm going to try and get you to ask important, pertinent questions in a very skillful way. There's two types of questions: the open-ended questions, and then there's the closed-ended questions. Both has its purpose when you're trying to understand the customer's problem, so you can provide the functional solution that also brings the emotional uh, completeness. So let's take a look at first at closed-ended. Closed-ended questions are questions that are answered in a simple yes or no. It confirms the customer's position, so you know what they're thinking, where they are. It reinforces the statement of belief, determines that the customer is in agreement, change direction during sales process, or establish commitment. So the closed-ended question again is a question you ask, and the answer can be given in yes or no. An open-ended question is a question that begins with one of what we call W words: what, why, who, where, when, and how. How is an H, but they put in the what. So an open-ended question allows people to be more expressive. You can gather more concise information, expands on previous responses, economy of questions asked, useful in opening reserve questions, allows for the expression of emotions. This is the part that's important. Gives you more concise information, but it also allows for the expression of emotion. So how are these questions used? The next couple of slides, it may be too technical, but I'll try to get through them, but it's really simple when you're in application. So what we want to do, we want to use closed-ended and open-ended questions in four specific ways. One is background probes. Background probes simply a question to help gather basic information. And let's go back to the car experience. So I understand your car's making funny sounds, and you were worried that you might never go. Is that right? Yes, that's right. What kind of sounds is it making, and where is it coming from? It's a background probe. Oh, it's coming from the back of my car, and it's a thumping sound. Okay, that's fine. The next one is called identifying probes. Questions to help the customer explain or define their problem, situation, and possible solutions. And so it's something. So I'm kind of worried that maybe it's one of my tires. It may be going flat, or it could be, I hit a bump because of the rainy season, and what happens, I think it may have ruined the rim. And so now you've gotten that this funny sound that the customer is concerned about is coming from the rear of the customer, making a thumping sound, and they sort of think that it may be their tire. Development probes question to help the customer to focus on key issues of their problem, develop ranking order. And so you say, oh, what are you really concerned about your tire? I hear that you're concerned about whether it is going flat or you're worried that you have ruined your rim. And so you're going to ask, which one do you think it really is? Oh, I think it really is the rim. Because if it was flat, I couldn't get to you. Oh, okay. So you think it's possibly the rim. So that's a development probe. Impact probes question, which helps the customer realize the negative impact of doing nothing now and the positive impact of taking action now. So if you believe it's your rim, then what I can do is, would you like me to take a look at the rim, or would you like me to check your tires? It's an option. All right. And so the customer will say, oh, check, since I think it's in my rim, check my rims. So I'll go ahead and check them. So this is how it's used. Again, you'll get a copy. I mean, if you want to, you follow the recording, you can get the sequence in, but it's used in this common format right here. You start off with a closed-ended question to set direction or change directions. You gotta follow it up. Once you get a direction, why have you come to my you will then use an open-ended question to gather more information. And then you're going to try to confirm or change directions with a closed-ended question. And then follow it up by gathering more information using an open-ended. So the sequence is close to set or change direction, open, gather more information. If you have an idea of the direction, set the direction, and open-ended question. This goes on and on. Here's the one thing I want you to really understand about this process. Here's the process. This process is wonderful, but you can kill yourself. Besides, if you use it too often for very small items, you will become obnoxious. And what you want to do is you want to use it when it's critical for you to understand the situation. Again, it's a really great tool, but you don't want to use it for small things because you will end up becoming very obnoxious. So when it's very important for you to get more information, use this process. Let me go back. We're almost done. We're almost there. Towards the end. A couple more slides, and I can let you run off. So we're almost at the end. So what you want to do is you want to search for more information using this final question. Is there anything else? This will save you more time. So how entrepreneurs and salespeople create emotional satisfaction? The decision to buy is made emotionally, is justified logically, with a sense of order. And this is the important part. You as a salesperson, you as a business owner, you as an entrepreneur will set a sense of order by questioning and relationship building so that the customer can justify a purchase logically. They have emotional connection to it, but they're going to justify it logically. When there's logical justification and emotional involvement, the customer believes they have made the right decision. So the customer has, I'll move this up to here. We'll see it. The customer has emotional satisfaction. So this is what we want. This is the key area in selling, is that the customer needs to walk away with this emotional satisfaction. Even for something as simple as a chocolate chip cookie. They want to feel, this is the best chocolate chip cookie I ever want. You want to go ahead and have them walk. And the reason is that when they leave you with that emotional satisfaction, they're going to come back to you. And this is one of the ways in which you can continue to build your business, is to always try to gain this emotional satisfaction. A couple of quick tips before I let you run off and do important things. Final tips, selling tips. First of all, there are magic words that you should always use. Welcome, my name, thank you, my name, please, my name, so help you, my name. The most powerful word is my name. So once you gain what a customer's name is, use it so that they understand that you are looking at them as a person, not as a blind customer. The other one is that customer satisfaction is delivered through safe speed. They want it as quickly as possible because they want to get that problem out of their hair. They want it accurate. They don't want mistakes being occurring. They also want a friendliness from you. And lastly, They want efficiency. They don't want to do a lot of extra work if they don't have to. The final tip is value added. We moved this up. Value added selling, building lifelong relationships, not one-time events. Again, you as entrepreneurs, you as business owners, you want lifetime relationships and not one-time events. And with that, I'd like to bid you mahalo nui loa. Thank you so much for investing your time with me. It is now 12:52. Any questions or any comments or anything right now?
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Hopefully this was helpful. It's a different look at the art of selling. And again, it's a way for you to advance your selling technique and really look at your customers in such a way that they want to come back to you over and over again. With that, mahalo, and we'll see you at the Wahiwa Value Added Product Development Center. And always, you can contact me for individual business coaching. So again, thank you so much.